anxiety, which I gather that's why you're here, how's it going to change your life if you feel less anxious? And we'll start with you, Janine.
Well, I think life's going to be a bit more enjoyable. It's going to be
Why?
less. Well, being in a stressful state is not enjoyable. I'd rather be calm and relaxed.
Yeah, that's
so
good. That's a good reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if I'm not anxious, I probably get more things done. Like I accomplish more. I'm able to function better. Yeah.
Totally. Hello, Jade.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
We can't see you yet.
Yeah, just getting my camera going.
But you might be hiding.
Yeah, possibly.
Which is what people do when they're anxious.
Here we go.
Cool. So we've got Irvin and we've got Janine. So what we just started with, Jade, is we just talked about why you want to become less anxious. And we just started with Janine, and Janine said two main things from what my interpretation of what she said. She said life will be more enjoyable because it's less stressful, and she'll be able to achieve more in life. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I'll get you to think about that. We'll come back to you in a minute because we'll get Irvin to answer that question.
Well, I'm similar to Janine. I mean, anxiety is a form of pain, isn't it?
Yeah.
So pain is, like she said, not enjoyable. That's one thing. Another thing, I do have experiences with anxiety myself, as you know.
Yeah.
So this is very important. This session for me. That's pretty much when I saw anxiety. I said I must join this webinar tonight.
But I want you to be specific. Like Janine was quite specific. So if you're less anxious, how do you think it's going to change your life?
Well, everything's connected, isn't it? So it's going to reflect on how I deal with other people, and in turn, it will reflect on how they deal with me. And you know, I'll be happier. People around me will be happier when I'm having anxiety.
Yeah, excellent. And why I ask you to get specific, because if you really know the reason why you want to make a change in your life, you're more likely to do it. That's why it's a great place to start is to know why. It's cool.
Yeah.
Both are giving really cool answers. Jade.
Yeah.
Why do you want to feel less anxious in your life?
Well, more confidence would be one. And anxiety is a form of fear. So removing fear from life is good. Obviously, living in love and abundance. I think anxiety prevents me and people from being their best self, and from just taking risks and just living in abundance. I think so. I think that is a roadblock in terms of actually achieving what you want to achieve and being who you want to be. Being anxious and worrying about things and what if this, what if that.
Cool, excellent. So you guys are pretty connected to why you're here, which is really cool. So the reason why I believe this is an important topic, and you guys are giving your specific reasons, is we live in a time right now in the world of great uncertainty because there's a lot of change going on. And especially in the next month, starting about March 20, which is in 4 or 5 days' time, right? There's a lot of news that are going to come out which is going to freak some people out. Because it's going to freak their reality. And what happens is people get anxious, and we'll talk about what anxiety is in a minute. So anxiety affects many people. There's many people anxious, especially given the current environment. And it can have very dramatic effects on your life, as all you guys indicate a little bit about your own life, right? So it does have dramatic impacts on your life. So that's the reason why I did this talk. So let's start off by looking at, let's define anxiety. Now, Jade loves always starting off talking about defining things. So we'll go to Jade. So Jade, if I asked you what does anxiety mean, what would you say?
Fear and worry about what could happen, or uncertainty about what is happening, what people think about you. Just not being certain, living in fear and living in your head instead of your heart.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Janine or Irvin, would you like to add anything to that? Thanks for that, Jade. That's pretty cool. I like it.
It is. I think Anxiety, you're very much worrying about things that haven't happened yet or things in the future. You're not living in the moment. You're not being mindful.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to come and talk about what causes this in a minute, but yeah, totally, I love that. Irvin, is there anything you want to add to that?
I think there's different types of anxieties.
Cool, yeah.
There's everyday anxiety where people are worried and concerned and stuff like that. And then there's the clinical anxiety. In mental health, you'll come across people who need extra medication because it's that powerful what they feel and it's that strong. So there's all different kinds and all different levels of anxiety.
But I'm going to tell you tonight, Irvin, they all come from the same causes. And most people don't understand the causes. And that's why they get medical thing, which doesn't tend to work. It works in the short run, but doesn't tend to deal with it.
Yeah.
So let me summarize from what you guys said. It's a feeling of worry. It's like an uneasiness that we feel. We feel restless because of something uncertain in the future that we don't believe we can handle. I think that's really important to add. So we don't believe we can handle it. So in other words, what we do is we want to avoid a particular outcome. That's what anxiety is about. If you could trust that you could handle every experience, then you wouldn't have any anxiety, would you?
No.
No, and we're going to come talk about how you can do that in a minute. So in a way, because I'm just going deeper here with what you guys said, right? In a way, anxiety means you're attached to a particular outcome happening, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because in other words, you don't want this to happen because there's a reason why you believe you can't handle it. So you're trying to avoid it. So therefore, people with anxiety, one of the impacts, we're going to come talk about the effects of anxiety, is I can tell you that most people who suffer anxiety are control freaks. Because what they try and do is they control, because they want to avoid an outcome, they try and control the outcomes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and they do that through compulsive behavior. I can tell you that anyone's got OCD, like obsessive compulsive behavior disorder, they've all got anxiety. Yeah? Because they believe they can't handle something if something isn't totally how they want it. Right? So in a way, it's like a nervous disorder because it affects your nervous system. We'll come talk about your body in a minute. So you've got a strong desire. When you've got anxiety, you've got a strong desire that you don't want something to happen. And the only reason you've got that strong desire for something not to happen is believe you can't handle it. Right? We'll come talk about what that means in a minute. So in a way, it's a form of attachment. You're attached to a particular outcome not happening. Oops, if this happens, what am I going to do? Right? So you're trying to avoid that outcome. So in a way, the important question is then, what are you really scared of? Because remember, and I want each of you to just connect to yourselves right now with your own anxiety and say, under each, uh, uh, Jade said this in his initial comment, that it's based as a form of fear, right? Fear about the future, fear you can't handle something. So underlying all anxiety is you're scared of something happening. And I'll give some examples. It could be you could be scared of humiliation. So you might not sing in public, or you might not talk in public, or you might not talk to girls because, or for Janine, if you might not talk to men because you feel that you might be humiliated or judged or rejected or something. So you could be scared of rejection. You might avoid meeting people, right? You could be scared of punishment. Now that's especially the case if you've had experiences with narcissistic controlling people. So for instance, if you might have had experiences with people abusing you, a controlling, dominating person abusing you, you might be scared of people in authority, like you might be scared of police because you had a controlling dad or controlling mother. So you can be scared of punishment. You can be scared of feeling pain, which is a point that Irvin came up. See, most people are scared of feeling pain, but that's a belief. Pain doesn't have to be scared because pain's actually useful. Do you understand that, Irvin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you put your hand on the stove, which is cooking, I'm sure you want to feel the pain, because otherwise you're going to leave your hand there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pain's actually useful if you know how to utilize it to heal. But most people avoid pain. That's why they take painkillers or whatever, right? But you can actually appreciate what the pain's teaching you. I remember one of my students, she was attached to this piece of wood that she found, a beautiful piece of wood, right? And she was at some party where they had a bonfire, and someone threw her stick in the bonfire. Now, she was so attached to it, she went into the bonfire to get it, and she got these severe burns. Now, when she went to hospital, all the nurses wanted to give painkillers, but she'd done my shaman course, and she said, no, I want to connect to the pain. So she took no painkillers. She wanted to connect to the pain and learn from it, which is a lot about being detached. Which freaked out all the nurses. Didn't freak her out, but it freaked the nurses out, right? But because it brought up stuff for them. Sometimes people fear being poor, fear they can't create money, fear they can't, so they lock themselves in a job. That's a form of anxiety, because you want to try and avoid being poor, which is about not trusting yourself. So a lot of anxiety is about not trusting yourself. Trust is a very important word linked into anxiety. Because if you trusted yourself, or if you trust the world, I'm going to come and talk about the law of attraction tonight. If you trust the world is always perfect, whatever happens, then you will not feel anxiety. Right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Any comments on that? Or points you want to bring up? I can see Janine's thinking a lot there.
Yeah, I was sort of trying to process the girl with the stick. Did you say she was trying to become detached from the pain?
No, she connected to the pain.
She connected, okay, yeah.
She was trying to get detached from the stick. That was the big lesson for her. She had issues around attachment. That's why, like every class she came to me, she'd bring this stick to her class.
Okay.
She was attached to it. But obviously she created this experience to actually learn detachment. So that's why she jumped in the bonfire when someone threw it in. She wasn't worried about the pain at the time. And even afterwards, she didn't take painkillers because she wanted to learn the lesson.
Yeah.
Because in the shaman course, they're teaching you how you got to connect to your pain, not avoid it. Because pain is a powerful thing to learn. Although there are times when the pain is too much. All right. For instance, a toothache. If anyone's had a toothache, that can be excruciating, can't it? Right. And most people will take something to avoid a toothache. It's excruciating pain, right? But that doesn't mean that you still can't learn from it. So, some painkillers can be valuable, but people take them all the time. And they're not they're not learning the lesson. So, as most of you guys know, I'm not into medication.
No.
Avoid it the most times, right? So really there is something deep you're scared of, which is causing your anxiety. And I can tell you that most of that comes from trauma when you're a child. So therefore, quite often to deal with your anxiety, you quite often have to deal with a trauma, and quite often if it's unconscious to you, you might need to go to a healer to help it find out for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I'll give some examples. I've got a client at the moment, and her son suffers a lot of anxiety, right? Now, I linked it into two things. Because what's happening is, he's anxious now, like he's 11 years old, right? But it's not present time. See, anxiety is not present. It's not what's happening in your life right now that's causing anxiety. Something's triggering it, right? Now, there's two things that I connected to with this boy when I connected to him. I said, what happened at his birth? Now, the woman said to me that she had a very difficult labour with him. Like it was over 24 hours, very painful. She took a lot of medicine so she could deal with the pain of the birth. And I could feel the son felt disconnected from the mother. So he's actually quite anxious to be in his body because he feels that pain. So the experience that he's trying to avoid is the pain of rejection from his mother. Does that make sense?
Would
Yeah.
that be a subconscious pain?
It's a subconscious pain.
Yeah.
Therefore, he's always wanting attention from his mother. Now, the other age I connected to him was 2. I said, what happened when he was 2 years old? And she said to me, he was the only son at that time, right? He was the oldest. At 2 years old, she said, oh, I had twins. Now, that made him very anxious because suddenly you go from getting all the attention to when you imagine when they're having twins, of course, they're going to get quite a bit of attention. Especially when mother's got to breastfeed them, you know, at a very young age, right? And of course, that made him anxious as well, all right? So generally, your anxiety comes from some trauma you had, and you might not be conscious of it, right? Because obviously you're not conscious of it because a coping mechanism is we sometimes block it out of consciousness. Does that make sense? But the thing is, if you haven't dealt with it, it's going to be triggered until you do deal with it. And that's why it's important you've got to deal with the underlying cause. Because if you take medicines and go, okay, that's cool, I'm just going to take medicines so I don't have to face it and don't be anxious, right, to make me calmer, you're still going to create drama until you deal with the underlying issue. That's why medicines never work long term. And that includes quite often people taking sleeping tablets, because quite often people can be anxious at night. Because, for instance, they might have issues being by themselves or something, or they might be anxious of the dark, right? Because something happened to them when they was a child, when they were dark. Being scared of the dark is not natural. When you're in the mother's womb, you're in darkness for 9 months. What are you talking about? Yeah? Being scared of the dark is not natural. People think it's not, but it's actually not natural. So generally, if you're scared of something, it's something that happened to you as a child, which is being re-triggered, and you haven't dealt with it. So, Jade, is there anything you know that you're scared of that you haven't dealt with?
Yeah, well, for me, throughout my life, it's been fear of failure or fear of rejection or not being accepted. I think that's definitely what's held me back the most.
So probably something happened to you when you were a child, where you got,
Yeah,
you know, where you felt rejected or not accepted, or you may be told that you made a mistake or that you're not good enough or something.
Yeah. Well, I did have a traumatic birth, but
You did?
I did. Yeah. So that might be on a subconscious level.
I believe it is.
Yeah, I was. I was quite unwell when I was born, so that would be one, I think. And then, yeah, I think just maybe being the oldest child, there was a lot of overprotection and stopping from doing things and sort of no, don't do that, sort of get back in your corner a lot. So maybe that would be.
Have you got siblings?
I've got 2 younger siblings. Yeah.
Yeah. So you maybe that boy experience I told you about is very relevant to you.
It seems like it is. Yeah.
Usually when I tell a story, it's always relevant to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So maybe I feel you've got it. You haven't dealt with those yet. Totally.
No.
And we don't need to deal with it right now, but maybe if you want a healing session, we could deal with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because if your birth is painful, and for a lot of people, birth is painful these days because people don't treat birth properly, right? Especially being born in a hospital and they pull you out with forceps and a whole range of things, right? Birth can be very painful. I've got a student, right, who hates new circumstances, right? Now, that's because he had a troublesome birth as well, which is something new, right? Coming into the earth is something new. So he hates new circumstances. He's always anxious about it, right? So quite often it is about birth, because birth is a very, it's a dramatic change for you coming into the earth, being in a physical body in a limited space compared to when you're a spirit. And also the way people are born, which is totally unnatural in most cases these days. Right? Because one of my friends, who's very natural, she had all 4 girls, right, who in the bath at home, listening to really powerful music, and not lying down, which is not the way you're supposed to have kids. is actually supposed to be standing or kneeling, so the baby, so gravity actually helps you. And if you actually were born cesarean, that actually also freaks you out as well. Were you cesarean, Jade?
No, I was natural, but yeah, forceps were a part involved and a few other things as well. Yeah.
Yeah, forceps always cause damage to your
Yeah.
head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Janine, thanks for sharing that. Janine, what are you scared of? You know?
I've
What do you try
always
to
been
avoid?
snakes.
Ah, you know what snakes represent?
Yeah.
Change. Because snakes are always changing their skin. So you're scared of change.
Yeah. Although in the past I've kind of I've embraced change. Because I can tend to get bored pretty easy. So change. Change is sometimes really good.
Yeah.
So
But you're scared of big change.
yeah, I don't know. I think I'm scared of a lot of things. More so these days. I think scared of losing my job and becoming homeless, which is crazy. Scared of
But of course, these days, jobs aren't secure, right?
yeah.
The main reason people are in jobs is because they're not connected to who they are, and we're going to come talk about that. Because if you're really
Yeah.
connected, see, if you're really connected to your essence of who you are, you wouldn't be scared of creating money because the money just comes to you.
Yep.
So it's not the job;
Mm,
it's actually something deeper under that, which we'll talk about.
yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm just lately too. I've been scared of not seeing loved ones that have passed over again.
And so that's related to your ability, not connecting to people who passed over. We're going to come and talk a lot tonight about anxiety is really caused by not connecting to who you are. So if you're connected to all your abilities, then you can handle things.
Yep.
And it's a bit like if you drive in a car which is not totally working, like say on 2 cylinders, you probably wouldn't trust the car, would you? Driving at 100 miles an hour.
No.
Well, you're not going to trust yourself if you're not connected to all of yourself. Because you believe you can't handle life, which is probably right?
Yep.
So one of the big issues we'll come talk about in a minute that causes anxiety is actually disconnection from your abilities. See, because Janine, if you had the ability to connect to people who cross over, well, you wouldn't be scared of them crossing over.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. I think it's just the way everything's been. I think it's made me doubt my whole belief system.
Yeah, and we're going to
I
come
think
talk
I'm
about
questioning kind of foundation stuff.
Yeah, you're in your head too much. You worry too much,
Yeah.
which I think Jade said.
Yeah.
So people, if I look at your physical body right now as you're talking, I can even connecting to what I'm just saying is on the right side of your head is a lot of blocked energy.
Yeah.
Which means you're blocking you think too much, which you're blocking your third eye. Because remember one thing Jade said? Jade said about people get into their heads
Yeah.
and in their hearts. That
Mhm.
relates to you.
Yeah.
You worry a
Yeah.
lot. You think a lot. And that's
all the time. Yeah.
yeah, which is actually it's a form of addiction. And the thing is, if you're in your head worrying, you're disconnected from yourself. Because if you listen to what Eckhart Tolle talks about, if you're thinking, you're not present.
Yep.
So thinking is a form of disconnection. See, because if you connect to your heart, you just know what's right.
Mm.
But what most people do, I would say 99% of the population are psychotic, right? Because they turn out the same thoughts all the time, and usually they're very negative, right? I can't do this, or life's too hard, or I'm not good enough, or whatever it is, right? All these
Yeah.
negative thoughts, right? Which they're not true. They're just thoughts you're turning over that you might have had from some trauma when you were a child, right? Which could, like as Jade said, it might relate to his birth. And if you've got an issue around your birth, but you're relating that to all your experiences in life, then you're really going to have a smaller life because you haven't dealt with that issue.
Yeah.
So your limiting thoughts is one problem that people with anxiety have. It's an underlying problem. People have limiting thoughts about themselves, about the world. I can't handle this. I can't do that. Right? And they're all lies. They're all false beliefs. Because as a soul, we can handle and do anything if we connect to our abilities.
Mm. Yep.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Irvin, what are you really scared of?
Well, mine is a bit different. My first anxiety started when I was refusing to take medication for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was sort of unwell for a few months. And then I decided to take medication. And then once I took it, it was hurting me a lot. So maybe that resistance. And
Yeah, so what are you scared of? You don't know, actually. It's not conscious to you. Because what you're talking about, Irvin, is not the initial source of it.
yeah.
That actually was just a trigger. It relates to something younger.
Mm.
I sent you the
Well, I
thought.
lived in Montenegro. All right, I was born in Melbourne, but I lived in Montenegro as a kid when the war was fought in Bosnia.
Yeah.
So I was seeing all these soldiers go in and tanks and news all the time, and it could. It was very dangerous because they were trying to start it in Montenegro.
Yeah.
They didn't succeed eventually because the town where I lived is on border with Bosnia and Serbia,
Yeah.
and the war was on in Bosnia.
How'd that make you feel, seeing all those tanks and soldiers coming in?
Well, it's terrible. I mean, like, it was like, it was.
So what were you scared of?
I don't know. Is that have anything to do with it? I'm not sure. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't.
It does. That's why I'm asking the question, because I'm sure it does. What were
I
you scared of? Being killed?
suppose uncertainty, being killed.
Yeah.
So you reckon it's all connected to the childhood?
Absolutely. So
Well,
what we get?
I lived in a place that could have blown up any time. My father's businesses got blown up with dynamite or whatever.
That's a great example of anxiety, of how we defined it at the start. Is about, if you're living in a war zone, then you've got a lot of uneasiness about what's about to happen.
Exactly. You
I
don't know.
don't feel you've handled that. Because the important thing is, I'm trying to say here, Urban, is we think it's present time, but it's not. It relates to the present time is just triggering something.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And yeah. And it's just triggering something from what happened as a child. I'll give an example. Like if someone had, I had a very controlling, dominating person when I was younger, right? Who I saw as an authority person. So when I grew up, I had issues with police because I saw them as authority. And because I didn't trust this person when I was younger, I just got triggered when I saw police because they just reminded me of people who are in power, and I thought I couldn't trust them. But it wasn't the police causing that; it was my experience as a child that was causing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I feel you've got to do some clearing around, and to know, like even come some sessions with me now and again. Maybe that's something we can do another session.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I think that actually has had a significant impact on you. How old were you then?
I was. I'm trying to be precise. I was around 14 when it started.
Yeah.
14.
I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to tell you. I've got a student at the moment, right? Now he's 76 years old, and when I worked it out when he's talking to me, I said, "Oh my God, you were born in the Second World War." Right? I just worked out his age, right? He was obviously born in the 1940s. And I said, "You were in your mother's womb during the war." And he said, "Yeah, that's why he's got a lot of issues around grief, because he could feel it all around him." So that's an interesting choice to be born in the war, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of his anxiety relates to what he was feeling on around him, and especially what his mother was going through at the time because his mother had relatives fighting in the war. So a lot of the emotions he picked up, which he thought were his, were actually from his situation. Right? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. So it's really, underline what we said. When we've got anxiety, there's something we're scared of, right? Which we're trying to avoid. But by trying to avoid it, you're not dealing with it. And it's going to keep being triggered until you deal with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that's what's causing, given what you guys said with the definition, there's but based to what Jade said, all right? I've got to say, Jade, you're getting a lot clearer in the way you express yourself. Do you notice that?
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. So that was a very clear definition you said at the start. That's why I got you to say it up front, right? But, there's a lot of uneasiness about a certain outcome because we're trying to avoid something that we experienced previously and we think that's going to happen again that we believe we can't handle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's like Irvin, like, he wouldn't want to be put in any situation which is like a war zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, where you feel you're out of control. And sometimes in life, in Western life, it is a bit like a war zone, like right at the moment. With all this COVID nonsense going on, it's a bit of a war zone. We're really in a moment in the world right now, Irvin, but like it is like a war zone in a different way.
Yeah.
There's a big
Yeah.
battle going on right now. Excellent, guys. So let's talk about what causes anxiety. Well, as I said, it's really related to some trauma that we've had, which we believe we can't handle, and we're scared that's going to happen again. We believe it's present time, but it's not. It's like, oops, when I saw police, it's not police I was scared of, but it's that it triggered my experience when I had a dominating narcissistic person around me when I was younger who was angry and punished me, right? That's what I was scared of being punished again. Because that just re-triggered my energy. I thought, oops, this police and authority, are they going to do the same thing to me? So the real causes of anxiety is some trauma you had, which you haven't been able to handle. And then what we tend to do is we abandon ourselves. This is really the underlying cause. There's two underlying causes of anxiety. One is we have a trauma, we abandon ourselves because we believe we can't handle it. Now, this is really especially true for magical people because I work a lot with magical people because I train them to be healers. They're a bit different, you know what I mean? And they see the world in a very magical way. Now, these people feel quite anxious because when they try and share their magic, most people say they're crazy, like I was for a long time, right? So they're quite anxious to share their magic because they're worried about being judged or being seen as crazy. Which is quite a big thing as a kid or an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old. We told you're crazy. You haven't totally fitted into the world yet. I work a lot with those teenagers and kids who are quite magical. And all you guys are quite magical too, because that's why you're in this class with me. So therefore, what do magical kids do is they abandon themselves and they try and fit in the world, which is what I try to do. It's a bit like Harry Potter trying to fit into a muggle's world, and you can't really do it. You know what I mean? And how do we abandon ourselves? Well, what we do is we sacrifice ourselves to fit into the world. Don't we, Jade?
We do.
Yeah. And what that means is we create a false sense of who we are to fit into the world. And therefore we have limiting thoughts, which is what Jade was was what Janine was talking about. Oh, I can't do this. I can't express my magic, or I can't do that, or I can't work with energy, or we have those thoughts because we go, no, I'll be seen as crazy. So the way we really abandon ourselves is through limiting thoughts about ourselves or false beliefs. I think it's important to write down if you're writing down notes. Of course, you're going to see a replay of this afterwards, but we have false beliefs about ourselves, what we can and cannot do. Does that make sense? And that can relate to, what Janine said at the start? It stops you creating. So if you have an issue with your mother as a child, right, when you're being born, right, that might mean you might feel you've got issues with women, and might stop you creating the relationship you want because you don't trust women because of what your mother did when you were being born. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah. Jade, have you had problems creating relationships?
In the past, absolutely.
Yeah.
Maintaining as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's partly related to your relationship with your mother. And it's not blaming your mother, but that's just your interpretation of that experience. So if we form certain beliefs about us or people around us, like me around police or around women or around men or whatever it is, then that's going to stop you being who you really are and going to cause anxiety. Like one of my friends, one of my students, she got sexually abused by her brother when she was a child, right? Now that created a lot of anxiety of her around men because she felt she couldn't trust men. But remember, her brother's only one man in the world, right? But she formed this belief that stopped her creating relationships for a long time because she thought she couldn't trust men because of that anxiety of, oh my God, maybe that man might rape me or something. That I thought she had. So the important thing is we abandon ourselves by holding on to limiting thoughts. That's what really creates anxiety. And then when we do that, what Janine indicated, has shown us, we get in our heads and we have all these, we keep thinking these things all the time. But we're disconnected from our heart, which is what Jade said at the start.
Mm.
Right? It's really important to connect to your heart. That's how you connect to who we are. And that's an exercise I gave Irvin recently. It works, doesn't it, Irvin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that, right? I remember you sent me a message one day saying how powerful it was connecting to his heart, didn't you?
Well, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, there you go, see? So I'm just going to share the exercise with you. I want you to put your left hand on your heart right now. Left hand, because left hand is feminine. And I want you to really feel underneath your hand. In other words, really allow yourself to feel your heart. Focus your energy on your heart. And focus on your heart so much, I want you to feel, if you can feel it beating, you're that connected to it. And also listen to your heart. As you'll connect to your heart with all your senses. You're hearing it, you're feeling it. You imagine visualizing it. And as you're doing this, I want you to, when you breathe in, I want you to imagine you're breathing love into your heart. Do a big in-breath into your heart. On the out breath, I want you to send love from your heart to every part of your body on the out breath. Do that for 5 breaths. In breath, big in breath, breathing love into your heart. And really feel it with your heart, with your hand. Out breath, send love from your heart to every part of your body. Just keep doing that for a few more breaths. Focusing your attention on your heart. Focus on feeling. Just really be connected to your heart. Okay. So now you can open up your eyes. Janine, how you feel?
Really relaxed, actually.
Cool. Simple exercise. I'm into
Mm.
simplicity, by the way. I like simplicity.
Mm.
Anytime you're thinking too much, Janine, stop.
Mm.
If you relate to some past trauma, get into your heart. It's going to help you be present and more connected to who you are.
Actually, peaceful is a better way to describe it, I think.
Excellent.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the impact Irvin said before. I gave him this exercise a few weeks ago. Jade, how did you feel?
Yeah, good. Yeah, energized as well.
Well,
And
look at his energy right now. Can you feel he looks different? Janine looked different too. Oh my God, definitely. Irvin, how are you feeling?
Good.
This is one of his regular exercises, so he just understands it. Right? It's really, really cool.
Happy.
Happy. Cool. So that's an exercise that you can do regularly. Anytime you're feeling anxious, well, obviously you've got to deal with the underlying cause of it. But in the short term, if you do that, it's helping you connect to who you are. Because remember, anxiety, one of the causes is self-abandonment. This helps you connect to who you are. Because, you know, they often say your heart is your gateway.
Well, wouldn't this exercise help with a lot of other stuff as well, not just anxiety?
Absolutely.
That's the way I see it. With restlessness, with everything, yeah.
Absolutely. Good point, Irvin. Absolutely. But of course, tonight we're talking about anxiety.
Yeah,
but
no,
you're
sorry.
right.
Yeah, that's what I.
No. But it's a good point to make. But yeah, it does help with a lot of other things as well. Because most people are in their heads about other things. It's not just anxiety that causes people to be in their heads. It's for many things as well. But getting out of your head into your heart, which is the point that Jade made right at the start tonight, a really, really important one. This is one way to get back into your heart, to really feel it with all your senses. Really, really powerful. And there's other way, when you're doing that exercise, you can also increase the experience by listening to some heart music. I had this healing from this lady once who played the harp. Oh my God, it's such a beautiful energy. It really connected me to my heart. Other energy which is really good to connect you to your heart is drum music. Do you know why? Because drum is like a rhythm, and it's like when you're in the womb, and it's like you're feeling that beautiful rhythmic beat of your mother's heart. That's what drumming is. That's where the whole concept of drumming came from. It's that Mother Earth energy of that rhythm beat, which relaxes you. So you could do that exercise, and you could even go on YouTube and find some good drumming music that you really like. Or harp. Harp is beautiful, soft energy. Yeah. If you keep doing that every day, oh my God, as you do it before you go to bed, wow, you're gonna have really good sleeps. Right? So that's the first important cause of anxiety, is not being connected to who you are, not being connected, you abandon yourself. And therefore you're not connected to all your abilities. For instance, like Janine said before, some fear of not being able to connect to people who pass over. See, I don't have that fear. So when my mother died last year, I got a very strong connection with my mother. It didn't change whether she's on Earth or not on Earth. It's actually stronger since she's not on Earth, because she's not caught in the human drama. I can connect to her easier. Okay, the second important thing about what causes anxiety is you don't understand creation, especially the law of attraction. Now, what do I mean by that? Because remember what anxiety is, going back to how you guys defined it very well tonight, is you're worrying about a particular outcome which you feel is undesirable. If you understand the law of attraction, everything is always perfect. So why would you try and avoid it? And I really like the saying once. This really will release your anxiety if you appreciate this comment. Your soul only creates things you can handle. See, our soul is not insane, it's our mind that we allow to go insane because we hold of these limiting thoughts. But our soul always creates experiences that we can handle. It's only our mind thinks we can't handle it. Because if you really understand the law of attraction, you create experiences to help you learn something. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. And if something happens in your life, oh my God, I can't handle this. Well, you're not being grateful and accepting. Oh, I create an experience here to learn something. You might know what it exactly is at the moment, but you ask the universe and you connect to the experience. What does happen? Like that lady did with the stick. She laid in a hospital bed, connecting to why she had that experience, and all the pain went away. She didn't take any painkillers, but she connected to it. So she didn't think pain was uncomfortable, Irvin. She actually appreciated the pain.
But
Yeah.
if you have it ongoing, on and off for years, it's a bit hard to sort of.
Yeah, that's because most people don't know how to connect to their pain to resolve it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, because you're not taught that, right? But if you really understand that all life experiences are there to help you, and we talked about this with you recently with yourself, right? We won't go into the details, but if you understand your experiences, why you've created them, then you're not going to, in the past, you're not even going to worry about if they happen in the future. You go, oh, I'm going to learn from that experience. That's okay. So if you're connected to who you are, number one, and if you understand the law of attraction, that everything's okay, and I'm creating experiences to learn, you're not going to try and avoid them.
That's right.
And therefore, you're not trying to have all this controlling, compulsive behavior that people have, like thinking. That's a compulsive behavior that Janine is showing us very well tonight, right? Which most people in the world have. They're compulsive thinkers. Whereas at the moment, yeah, it's really, really important in the world, given what's going on in the world. Yeah, jobs aren't secure. Who knows what business is going to exist in a few years' time? But that's why I create my own business. I'm not relying on other people to give me money or jobs. I'm connected to myself. If you really connect your own abilities, money's going to come to you. That's if you understand creation. Yeah. If you sit there and worry about money and you can't do it, well, you're going to create it. That's the law of creation. It's not life creating it, it's you creating it. Well, let go of that limiting thought. It's really, really important. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in a way, you create, if you're not connected to your abilities, you will create experiences in your life to help you connect to them. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like the comment, a smooth sea never made a great sailor. How's a sailor going to be a great sailor if there's no strong winds or rough seas? No, he had rough seas and strong winds to learn how to use his abilities to sail that boat.
There's a saying when I was in the army,
Right?
in infantry, here in Australia, just for those who don't know, they used to say, "You're not a soldier till you get charged."
Well, there you go. See?
With disobeying a local general order, being drunk with duty, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you don't go too far.
But you know what most people do, right, is they try and avoid life rather than going, now what is life teaching me about myself and how I can use my abilities to handle it? So as an example, as a healer, I've had a lot of challenging clients, but that's powerful because it helps me connect to my abilities. I go, what ability can I use here to help people? As an example, I had a lady come to me, right, and the doctor said, you've got a 1% chance of getting pregnant. And I thought, what kind of ability can I use here? And I thought, I can connect to her future baby, and her future baby will tell me why the baby's not coming into her. And I set that intention, and her future son came to me and said, oh, I'm not coming into my mother because she's got too many issues. When she clears her issues, I'll come into her. And the baby told me, this is telepathically, what her mother's issues were. And her mother said, yeah, they're all totally accurate. I thought, this is a joke for you, Jay, like me. I thought, my God, why didn't I do that before I came to the planet? You know what I mean? And guess what? 3 weeks later, she got pregnant. And the doctors gave her 1% chance. So it wasn't a physical thing. It was the baby was choosing not to come because the mother had too much shit going on. But see, that session helped me open my ability to telepathically connect and talk to future babies. And now I've done that with quite a few women who can't get pregnant. That opened me up to that ability. So if anything happens in life, you go, oops, how can I handle this? What ability do I need to use, right? Given that your soul doesn't create anything you can't handle, what ability do I need to use to handle the circumstance that I'm not currently using? And then you're very grateful of life and acceptance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for like Janine, if she's got some fear of people passing over, well, you just need to learn how to connect to them. which I do with some people, right? Because I can do that, and that's the ability I help other people do. Because I had a guy, he came to me, and he said, "Can you talk to my best mate who committed suicide 9 years ago?" And I said, "No, actually, I'm going to teach you how to connect to him." That's what I did.
Mm.
And I asked the guy who passed over, I said, how, because the guy asked me, who's in the physical, he said, "Okay, how do I know when my mate's talking to me?" And I said to his mate, I said, "Okay, mate," he's passed over. I said, "How do you want to communicate to him?" And he said, "I'm going to tickle his left arm so he knows it's me." That's what he said, right? Two days later, the guy woke up in the middle of the night and he felt someone tickling his left arm. So his mate was talking to him. So he learned how to connect to his mate. Yeah. Because he had all this fear about what happened to his mate and why did he do it. Well, I said, you can talk to him now. Your mate will tell you. But that all happened for a reason. There's a reason why he suicided, and it's all related to this guy's journey as well. So when you get an understand, the important point I'm getting here is when you understand the law of creation, things happen for a reason. Something I can learn here of how to connect to my abilities. You go, wow, isn't this cool? And you have no anxiety. The important thing is you've got to connect to it. The word connect, really important. Whereas most people avoid it. Right? They avoid the pain, an addiction. They think, or they take some addiction like alcohol, wine, or sex, or food, or gambling, or whatever it is, to try and avoid the pain and then try and control their life. And they never learn anything. And then they create a small life of pain and suffering. Does that make sense? So they're the important things. So how does anxiety affect our lives? Well, very big, obviously. Worry is one of them. We get in our heads a lot and we worry. We have a lot of negative thoughts. It actually tends to cause destructive behaviours like control. If we're anxious, we tend to become control freaks. We try and control our life, which means we might avoid going out, or we don't put ourselves out into the world. Or we might be in a job that we don't like because we're scared we can't create the money when you really want to do something different. That's a really important anxiety for most people. So it can have a very dramatic effect on your life in terms of, because what I just talked about, they're dramatic effects. Like, you're feeling uneasy, you're not happy, you're always worrying, you've got compulsive addictive behaviours. But it also has a major impact on your body. The main organ that it affects is the bladder. Because different emotions affect different parts of the body, and the bladder is known as the anxiety organ. So obviously, if you're anxious, you tend to piss a lot. In a way, it's like a body joke. You're pissed off with the world. So you tend to, because you're releasing a lot. So when you're actually anxious, you do tend to have bladder problems. And I remember one of my clients, he was 13 years old, and he started wetting his bed. My God, how embarrassing was that for a teenage boy? Now, that was because he went into anxiety. Something triggered him. And as soon as I was talking to his mother, right, and I said, it happened when he's 3 years old. What happened when he's 3 years old? That's been re-triggered. And therefore, he's gone into anxiety, and his body's pissing at night because it's affecting his bladder. And related to something that happened when he's 3 years old. When I cleared that, he didn't wet his bed anymore because I dealt with the underlying trauma. So it can have major effects on your bladder. It can have major effects on your ability to create, a bit like Janine said, like you're not doing what you really want to do. So you can block your sacral chakra. You can block your throat chakra because you're not expressing what you really want to say because you're a bit anxious. I think that's one of your issues, Jane, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's where you can feel it as well, anxiety, when it happens or you're feeling anxious or worrying. It's, for me anyway, around the throat area is where it's really tight.
Yeah, and that's probably because you got, you know, what you said before, right? You probably got judged when you're a child about expressing something. So you're really scared of being humiliated or embarrassed or something.
Mm.
But see, but that's bringing up another good point. But you can only feel the energy if you're attached to what people think of what you say.
Yep.
See?
Yeah, fear of acceptance or not being
It-
accepted.
Feel,
Yeah.
yeah, which means you're looking for validation outside of yourself. If you
Yeah.
totally believe in yourself, then you say what you want to say, and you're not attached to what people think or say.
Mm.
Yeah, and Irvin knows this because like when Irvin comes to me, I say, Irvin knows I'm going to be very direct with him. Now I'm not attached to what Irvin thinks. I'm just saying what the truth is. You know what I mean? That's what I do. I just connect to the truth,
Yeah.
and I just let that come through me. I'm not attached to what I say. I'm not. Some people think I'm crazy. Like I put ads on the paper in Facebook, and some people call me the devil or something. And I go, what? That's okay. That's their belief. But I'm not attached to what other people think. See, because what other people think of me, Jade, is actually, it isn't
No.
about me, it's about them.
Yeah.
And most people are crazy. Most people are, they're not really connected to who they are. So why do you want to listen to what they say? Yeah.
Mm.
So when I get on a tram, I was talking to a lady in the tram, and I said, do you realize that wearing a mask is crazy? It's so unhealthy. Oh yeah, but it's the law. I said, no, it's not really the law, but because if you look at the federal laws, they can't force you to wear a mask. It's actually not a law. But she's anxious. She's anxious. See, that's why she's wearing a mask. Why is she anxious? Because she's anxious that she's going to get punished for not wearing it. But if you know your rights, if you understand your abilities of what rights you've got in the world, they can't force you to wear a mask, and
Yeah.
they can't fine you.
It's what this whole thing's been about, is being fear-based, but that's another topic.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's really important because a lot of people are anxious. That's why they're doing compulsive behaviour like wearing a mask when you don't need to, which is ridiculous. It's very unhealthy. So that's a good example of anxiety. Totally. So relating to going back to the throat, that's the throat chakra is quite often a very blocked part of the body when people are anxious because they don't feel they can say what they want to say.
Yeah.
So they tend to be people pleasers and say the right thing so you don't rock the boat. But if you do that, you're not expressing your truth of who you are. And deep down, you get angry with yourself because you're not really being who you are. Okay, you can block your head energy, a bit like what we saw with Janine. Like because we're talking about the effects on your body here. If you worry a lot, you're going to block your third eye, right? Because you're going to think a lot and worry about, and you're blocking what you can actually really see, what the real truth is. So it can have major impacts on your body, anxiety. And of course, if you get into the thing that Irvin said before, that for some people they take long-term medication to deal with anxiety, it never works. Sometimes you might need to take anxiety in the short term, but I'm going to give you a couple of techniques in a minute to deal with short-term anxiety. So you don't need to take any medication. But if you're on medication for a long time, that has dramatic effects on your body. Most of them are all poisonous. And it blocks you who you really are. Now, of course, the ultimate effect of anxiety is you're not really putting yourself out into the world of who you are. Janine sort of indicated that earlier. You're not totally willing to go and do the things you really want to do because you feel anxious, you can't handle it. Like one of my clients, she's a singer, but she's scared of singing. She's anxious. But she's attached to how people think of her. But that's her passion. She wants to sing. But she's allowing her anxiety to stop her. See, Michael Jackson isn't scared to sing or dance. He was asked once, right? Michael Jackson was asked, what's it like dancing for thousands of people? And I loved his response. His response was, I don't dance for anyone but myself. That's why he doesn't feel anxious about it. He just does it, but he's actually good at it as well, but he actually just does it for himself. He's not looking for external validation. I think that's a really important point for you, Jay, that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You've got to look for internal validation. No, this feels right for me because you're connected to your heart, and therefore I'm going to say it. Okay, so how do you overcome anxiety? Well, it's about reconnecting to who you are. And one way we've shown you tonight is a heart exercise. That's a really important way to connect to yourself. I'm going to give you a couple of short run techniques that reduce anxiety. Now, you know, I've said to you that anxiety is related to the bladder. So one way you can overcome anxiety is relating to the bladder organ and also the fear or the kidney organ. Fear is related to kidneys, right? So what you can do is you can do work on those meridians. This is based on Chinese medicine. Now the actual, do you all know what meridians are?
Yep.
Yeah, they're energy channels that run up and down your body, right? Now the bladder meridian, I'm going to take my glasses off to show you here. The bladder meridian starts here, right in the corner of your eyes, up here. See that?
Mm-hmm.
So before we do this exercise, I want you to connect to something that you tend to feel anxious about. Like Jade is going to be probably expressing himself in public. So just all three of you, just connect to something. You don't have to tell me. Just all connect to something you feel anxious about. Like Irvin might be drinking his medicine, whatever it is. Just allow yourself to feel the anxiety. And now I want you to put your thumbs up here in the corner of your eyes. And you hold that spot. And just keep breathing and just touch those spots. You don't have to press very hard. Right up in the corner. Just keep breathing. Close your eyes and just keep breathing. And just allow your finger, you're going to be releasing energy from your bladder meridian to help release anxiety. Okay, so take your thumbs away. Just connect to your body. How do you feeling right now?
Relaxed.
Relaxed? Thanks for that, Irvin. Jade?
Yeah. Well, more present and no sort of tension inside.
Cool. So that's an exercise whenever you're feeling it. Right? You can do the heart exercise, you can do that exercise, and you're just going to be the third one I'm going to give you, right? Janine, how did you feel?
I feel more alert.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, because that would be really good for you, Janine, because it's also connected to, it's very close to your third eye, which you've been blocking the thinking, right? So it's really powerful, right? That's the start of your bladder meridian. So help clear your energy from your bladder meridian. And remember that, as I said before, anxiety tends to affect your bladder. So this is removing in the short term. Ultimately, you want to deal with the underlying cause of it, but this will help release the situation in the short term. Now, the other points you can use, they're actually on your kidney meridian. And these are underneath your collarbone. So what I want you to do is I want you to cross your hands like this. Cross them. And just feel underneath your collarbone. You should be able to feel your collarbone. And just underneath it, they're like, if you push down, they're like little holes. Underneath your collarbone, I think you're above it, Jade. Go wider. Jade, go wider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feel that? Yeah, there, you got them. Irvin, can you feel them?
Yeah, I've just got one hand on.
Yeah, but you can feel it because you've done the course with me. You've got them. Janine, just show me your picture. Can I get closer on your?
I can't, because I'm on my phone. I can't.
Okay, cool. Can you feel them underneath your collarbone?
Yeah, I can. It's actually a little bit tender.
Yeah, it probably is because it's sore. Now you can rub them or you can tap them. See them like this? It's like a little bird. Tap them. I just want you to tap those points. Or you can rub them. If they're sore, Janine, it probably means this is related to your kidney meridian, which is related.
Yeah.
So just want you to, again, just tap that. Just feel what's happening to your body as you're tapping those points. This is an example of emotional release. There's whole courses that teach people this for different things, right? This is good to release anxiety. Really feel your body. Oh yeah, that feels really good. I can feel my energy going right down my back, down my legs. Janine, how'd that feel?
Makes me feel uncomfortable.
Oh, that's connecting you some fear. You got a lot of fear
Yeah,
in your body.
which probably means it's doing me some good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So thanks for acknowledging that. See how she laughed about it? See, she laughed
Yeah.
about the pain. Good one, Hab. Irvin, how'd that feel?
I was enjoying it.
Yeah, really cool. Irvin loves body work, right? Anything touching your body, Irvin, you like, right?
That's it.
Yeah, Jade, how'd you like that?
Yeah, because I didn't notice that as much as the last one
Yeah,
myself.
so
Yeah.
in other words, the bladder ones might be stronger for your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because remember, different exercises suit different people. But tonight you've got 3 exercises you can do. You can do the bladder, you can do that one for the kidney, and you can do the heart one, which is about really connecting to who you are. Now, the other thing you can really do is do relaxation exercises. So in other words, on a daily basis, how do you relax? So for instance, like for Irvin, right, I can tell he loves walking in nature barefoot, don't you, Irvin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for some people, it could be listening to music, right? Other people might be playing with your nieces or nephews or something, or going to the park or whatever. See, I love going to the park. That's what I like to do to relax, because I just feel the energy in the park. It's really relaxing. Or you could meditate, or you could lie in the bath. Find ways that you relax yourself every single day. Because most people, because of their anxiety, they run around like a chicken with its head cut off, being busy. That's a form of compulsive behavior to avoid anxiety. Allow yourself to relax and enjoy being calm, which is what Janine said right at the start. She wants, one of her main reasons is so she's more enjoyable and calm with life. Well, therefore, you've got to do things every day to allow yourself to do that. Yeah, does it make sense? To have
Yeah.
relaxation exercises. But ultimately, it's also about maybe getting a healing with somebody like a healing practitioner that can help you deal with where the underlying trauma came from that caused your anxiety. Like we did with with Irvin relating to being in the war, and Jade relating to what happened at his birth and stuff, and being the oldest child. You two have both got some issues around that. That's why they came up tonight. Otherwise, you wouldn't even mention them. So if it's about, we all need healing. Even healers like me, I get healing from people, because sometimes you can't see it because you're trying to block the pain. It's like a coping strategy. And it's not being hard on yourself, because that's just the best way you can deal with it at the time. But if you don't deal with your anxiety, it creates a lot of destructive behavior that you three guys are really aware of, and not create that peaceful lifestyle of paradise that you really want. Yeah? Does it make sense? So let's just go around and just say, what's the biggest thing you learned tonight, and what's one thing you're going to do differently in your life? Start with you, Jade. What's the biggest thing you learned tonight, and what's one thing you're going to do different in your life to help you deal with anxiety?
Well, as with every talk with you, Paul, the universe works in funny ways. But I've been spending a lot of time just reading about the law of attraction lately, and manifesting and creating your own reality. So it's obviously great that it's been touched on tonight. But yeah, I've just been focusing on living in abundance, and just believing through meditation that you already have everything you need. It's already here. It's just it hasn't manifested yet, and it will manifest when the time's right. I think that removes a lot of anxiety about what if this doesn't happen, what if this does happen, and that's been helping me with it, with anxiety or worry or living in the head too much. So the fact that you've mentioned that as well. Obviously tonight I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing regarding that.
So that helped you. So had that helped you just reminding you of that point, talking about that tonight, the law of attraction?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's helped me, and it shows that I'm on the right path by doing that, and I'll continue to do that.
Cool.
Yeah, and just connecting to whenever you're feeling a negative emotion, in this case anxiety, connecting to that, and then sort of moving through it, as opposed to sort of resisting it.
Yeah. Because the funny thing, quite often what we think we've got the biggest fear and anxiety about is what we're really good at. Because you're actually a very clear speaker, very concise. Isn't it, Janine? Irvin, don't you reckon?
I was
he
just
is, yeah.
thinking, I've been on, I think, a few ones with Jade now, and I always find him very insightful. And yeah, I actually quite enjoy listening to him, and I usually get a lot out of what he says, because
Totally.
he is quite clear and yeah.
Well, thank you, Janine. I appreciate that.
But you weren't, Jade, in the first couple that you came to me, were you?
Oh no, that's it.
But that shows your responsibility for that you have. Like even tonight, at the start, when I asked you, you didn't have any fear around what you said. You just came out and said it in a very concise way, which is brilliant. What you said, I really liked what you said, right? And that just reflected by Janine. So, Irvin, how do you feel about what Jade talks about? Because this is the first time I've met you.
It's all good. I haven't really read much about law of attraction, but I haven't really been thinking about my childhood, about the war that be living in a country that was involved in a war, and whatever that happened during that time. I've never really thought much about it. Like,
that's your big thing you got to do.
Got to think about it a little bit and just do the heart meditation.
Yeah. No, but you also, when you said you haven't read much about the law of attraction, I sent you an article about the law of attraction in one of your previous sessions.
Yeah.
So you need to read the article. And that's Jade was sending you that message. Not only for he said it for himself, but that's a message for you.
Yeah, I haven't really read much about law of attraction.
Yeah, I think you've got to go back and read that. You got to read that article. If you can't find it, just ask me and I'll send it to you again.
Yeah.
But I think, it's really important. You got to go back and connect to that childhood, because, Irvin, that's a very dramatic thing for anyone to go to actually be growing up. Now, when you're 14, you said you're 14 years old, right?
Yeah.
Now, at 14, at a teenage boy, teenagehood is all about your identity and how you fit into the world. Now, if you're living in that sort of uncertain world, I can understand that you might have a lot of beliefs about how uncertain the world is and never know where you're going to live through till tomorrow. You know what I mean?
So how do you face it? Sort of like you just think about it.
No, connect the experience and ask yourself this question: What can I learn from that experience?
Oh yeah.
And as I said
do
to
the heart meditation.
Yeah, and as I said to you, right, we go through experiences to help us to be of service, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I had a controlling, dominating person when I was younger, but I'm really good now at helping people with controlling, dominating people around them, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I said to you before, and just remind you, Irvin, is at the moment, it's like we're in World War III with what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? So, in a way, we're in a war zone right now.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's why it's relevant for you to look at and relate to what's going on in the world right now. So when you relate to it, I want you to relate to what's going on now in the world.
Yeah.
If you want, we can talk about it in another session. But yeah, I think you definitely got some energy around that, and it'd be good for you to look at that. I think a lot of your anxiety comes from that, and as Janine said, that is a very dramatic time.
Yeah.
So you need to process it. There's a reason why. Just like I said with that student of mine, there's a reason why he was born in his mother, right, during the Second World War. Because as a healer, he wants to help a lot of people with emotions. So he experienced grief at a very deep level, being in a war.
Yeah.
Right? Cool. Thanks for that. I know you're connecting to that. Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for coming tonight. Janine, what's the big thing you learned tonight, and what are you going to difference you're going to make after this?
I think that there's a few things. One was because I've always thought I was quite flexible with change, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you said big change.
Yeah.
So I'm okay. I'm okay with little change, and that's something I hadn't recognised. It's big change. Yeah, I think. Yeah, just so I'll be more mindful of that.
Because remember, just on that point, remember you're connected to snakes, and snakes make big change because they shed their whole skin.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
about big change. Oh yeah, Billy, you're laughing right now. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing, which I think is fairly major, is when Jade was talking about being more in your heart, not in your head.
Yeah.
And then you elaborated and you said the right side of your brain processes like too much thought.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting that I'm having a lot of trouble with the right side of my body at the moment, and I'm having a lot of trouble with my right knee, and like the right side of my body's become quite stiff.
Yeah,
So,
do you know the meaning of your right side of your body compared to the left side?
I don't think so.
Okay, so your right side of your body is masculine, your left side is,
Oh, okay.
and your right side is also physical, and your left side is spiritual. So if you've got issues about creating in the world, right, physically, then you'll have problems with your right side. And if you've got problems with your right knee, knee's about moving forward.
Mm,
So it's about issues about moving forward in the physical.
yeah, which is probably pretty spot on.
It's
Yeah.
about accepting a big change, given what putting the whole jigsaw together. So once you accept that you need to make a big change, which is about
Yeah.
letting go of some anxiety and maybe some trauma that is stopping you moving forward, because needs are always moving forward.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think you're quite connected to your spiritual side.
I am.
Yeah.
But I think there's something probably to do with world events and stuff. I think I'm undergoing some major stuff. So yeah, I've just got to roll with it. And
Because you talked about your job too, so I feel that's something to do with your work.
I love my job. I enjoy when I'm left to alone to actually do it. I actually enjoy. I work in a kindergarten, so I get to be with kids all day and I play, and I'm actually quite happy to go to work. And I've never had a problem finding work, and I've always had work. So and opportunities seem to flow to me. So it's really quite. It's irrational for me to be worrying about stuff like that.
There's something you need to deal with. And it might not be, I agree, I can feel you love being with kids, but maybe it's the way that you are at work because you don't like being told what to do or something. It's maybe the relationship with the other people you work with.
It's actually quite a big workplace. Like there's about 60 people work. It's a big
Oh,
work
wow.
environment. Yeah. Like it's a children's hub. But no, everyone's pretty good. Like, yeah, I mean, you get your odd periods here and there, but like there's nothing major, I actually
There's some I can feel some energy there that you need to maybe go and connect to
yeah
about moving forward in the physical.
yeah
Because your whole right side, and you said especially your right knee, is
yeah
something about you making a big change in some way.
yeah
It might not
yeah
be the work, it might be the work, because I can feel that you do like working with kids, and I feel you'd be amazing with kids. Yeah.
yeah
But there's something in the physical that you need to make a big change.
yeah
Move forward.
but yeah, to answer the question, I'll do more of the connecting to the heart, especially before I go to sleep, because I have a lot of trouble sleeping. So I think that'll be quite useful, and I'll give the kidney and bladder one exercise a bit of a
And do them before you go to bed too.
yeah.
And then form the belief. If you say, I have trouble sleeping, you're going to create it. So you say, I used to have trouble sleeping. But now with doing these exercises, you say to yourself, I'm an amazing sleeper and I'm just about to have the most beautiful deep sleep ever.
Yeah.
Feel the energy, you even just connected to it. Yeah. So I want you to have a positive affirmation when you go to sleep, when you're doing those exercises about, oh yeah, I'm feeling really calm right now. And I'm just about to have the most amazing deep sleep.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. I can imagine if I was a baby now, sleeping like a baby does, how will I go to sleep right now and have that deep sleep? You know, when you watch babies sleep, they're really in a deep sleep like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're connecting to your heart, I think you're going to get some answers.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's really important for you. Like, you know, when you're talking tonight, and it's really interesting because Jade made that point right up front.
Yeah.
And that was really important to you. And see, that's why Jade needs to express himself, because he has a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
Right? I can see Jade running talks online. You know what I mean? Totally.
Yeah.
With the wisdom he knows. Have you ever thought of that, Jade?
I haven't, but yeah, I haven't, but I'll definitely consider it now. I've done a lot more talking in front of people the last few months, which I think's helped.
Yeah, cool.
You know, as
And of
well.
course, remember, if you're looking for a venue to do it, you can do it through my group.
Yeah.
So if you come to me with a topic and say, I'm going to talk about this, cool, I'm happy. All right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No worries. No, thank you.
Yeah. Because as Janine said, like both Janine and Irvin said to you, they really like what you said. And Janine, she's heard you a few times, right? So yeah.
I think every time I've listened to you speak to Jade, you've said something that's really appropriate for me at that point in time. That's why it's always very insightful. Yeah.
No,
So
thanks,
I
Jane.
think,
Yeah, and likewise to you as well. Even when you were talking about, you know, feeling in your head, as you know, that's been me at various times as well. So it's it's good to have these discussions, I think, and just be open about it.
so what I'm connecting to, I think it might be good for you to communicate.
Yeah.
All right. And if you want, you can go to the Shamanism Play Group and you can probably find each other. Or if you want, I can connect you to numbers or something if you want to. But given what both of you said, I think it would be good for you guys to communicate now and again, which could be in whatever way, just emails or text or messenger or something. But there's obviously a connection between you two. And if you find people that you can connect to and relate to, it's really powerful. Because you obviously, I think both of you have got things to share with each other that will help each other, and it's good to have those people in your life.
For sure.
Especially this time, because sometimes it's just good having other people around you. Oh yeah, I can talk to this person and they understand me and they say things. Oh my God, that seems so relevant to me. Okay, guys, thanks for your time.
Thanks,
And
Paul.
Thanks,
it's
Paul.
my pleasure. So thanks for the call. Go away and have some fun with your anxiety. If you've got any questions, you can always come back to me. But let's hope that your life is going to be calmer and more tranquil now.
Absolutely.
And if you can help other people do that with any of those exercises, you go with them. But, you know, like for you, Jade, you like the bladder one, but not the kidney one. So just focus on that. Focus on what works for you. It's really, really cool. So enjoy the rest of your night. And we look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thanks, Paul. Bye.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
everyone. Thanks,
Hey,
Paul.
Janine. Irvin.
See ya.
Thanks, Paul.
See you guys. See you
Bye.
soon.